Before the great flood, our cities burned with light, yet beneath the crust an older fire woke. Pyreth, 500 kilometers long, turning the mantle itself into breath. Skyscrapers 1,000 meters high flickered like candle wicks as Tiamat's 5 vast heads tilted toward them, each eye a storm older than memory. The Kraken rose like a continent learning to stand, one limb crushing bridges, while the others tasted the thunder of cities that had not yet learned to be small. In trenches where no sun has ever walked, Gorman uncoiled, not quickly, but with the patience of mountains, its 500-kilometer bulk bending whole seas around its ribs. From the drowned geometry of Relia, Cthulhu lifted a thought, and aircraft shattered like frost. Its silent howl rode the ionosphere and came down as terror. Volcanoes woke as if taking attendance, and Pyreth exhaled, a heat so old it remembered when stone was still deciding what to be. Pyreth lunged, continents lean. Tiamat's wings wrote new weather across half a hemisphere. Every beat moved clouds like fleets and made mountains practice blowing. We answered with jets, missiles, and the white blossom of nuclear fire. And the monsters blinked, inconvenienced, as if dust had tried to sting the horizon. Battleships that once named oceans found themselves mere punctuation, tiny sparks crawling on black water beneath a shadow the size of a nation. The ground broke its promises, highways braided, rivers reversed, and furnaces burst open like seeds in a kiln wind. Sirens argued with the sky did not argue back. Fires climbed towers and learned about wind. Glass fell in bright rain. The oldest stories in our blood remembered why they were written. Jormungandr coiled around an island, and the island understood it was a metaphor. The Kraken's breath was a forest of storms. The sea beneath it thickened into muscle and memory. Cthulhu's gaze pressed on our thoughts until words forgot their scaffolds and fell inward, quietly. Pyreth turned, slow, inevitable, and valleys learned what night was at noon. People ran because running is what small things do when the map decides to change its mind. The Kraken struck. The ocean rang like bronze. Jormungandr dove. The sea folded like a book around it. Cthulhu reached into dreams and pulled out silence shaped like fear. Tiamat's 5 mouths coined new words for fire, and the dictionary begged for water. Jets dove again, brave and brief, their contrails tiny chalk marks on a lesson too large to grade. Humanity, smallest witness, steadied itself in their shadows and chose to keep standing. Gorman rested its jaw on cold water and listened to the old music in the earth's rotation. Forests breathed deeper. Rivers tested their banks and decided to behave. The Kraken climbed a storm like a staircase, and the storm held its breath for courtesy. Jormungandr rolled, archipelagos moved from where they had always been to where they would now pretend they had always been. Tiamat tasted the jet stream and braided it into 5 burning braids of intent. Jormungandr's scales were glaciers pretending to be armor. When it turned, coastlines learned the meaning of humility. Cities counted their windows. The living counted one another. Earth dimmed, surprised to hear a language in flame he had not spoken before. Cthulhu leaned closer and thoughts grew barnacles. Tiamat slowed, confused by kindness she could not burn. Missiles blossomed, scales smoked. The monsters noticed, which was almost a kind of victory. The Kraken loosened its grip on the horizon and let the tide be tide. The Kraken grasped the horizon and bent it like a reed in water. In the abyss, Cthulhu pushed a thought like a tide, and cities above it forgot their own names for a heartbeat. Power grids sighed and went dark. The stars stared back, unhelpful. Tiamat roared. Thunder learned what loud meant. The Kraken struck. The ocean rang like bronze. Then the earth answered herself. Pyrrhion rose from a caldera like a scripture of flame, 100 kilometers tall, his eyes 2 patient suns. Gravian lifted from strata and fault, 100-kilometer citadel wearing continents like dust on his shoulders. Voltaris stepped out of lightning, 100-kilometer spear made of the coral between cloud and ground. Nerita gathered from whirlpools and abyssal rivers, 99 kilometers of lucid tide and glacier grace. Erithus arrived as the sky's first idea of movement, 99 kilometers of living wind braided with dawn. They did not sprint. Mass that large does not sprint. They crossed the world and measured epochs that looked like footfalls. Pyrrhion spoke in heat. The deserts understood and made room. Pyrrhion drew a circle of blue-white flame, and within it fear lost its appetite. Together they wrote a lullaby in 5 elements, each verse a discipline, each chorus a promise. Nerita stroked the ocean until panic calmed into tide. Erithus tuned the air until chaos found a key and sang in it. Erithus cupped the breath of 1,000,000 lungs and returned it calmer. Voltaris paced along the spine of a cyclone until it remembered it was only weather. Voltaris called the storm by its first name, and the storm remembered. Gravian planted his hands and taught the crust how to hold its breath. Gravian opened the seabed like a door back to Ruliel. Nerita filled the corridor with velvet pressure. Pyrrhion met Pyrrhot, fire greeting fire, and the air between them became philosophy. The guardians looked at one another, and the world felt a plan take root. Voltaris carved a path of light across night, so lost pilots could remember where land was. Erithus scattered Tiamat's ash with a cathedral of wind, revealing the blue sincerity of the sky. Nerita found the kraken's rhythm and wrote a softer tempo into the sea beneath it. Voltaris threaded lightning through Jormungandr's crown, each strike a question the serpent could not ignore. Gravian raised a wall so high that weather paused to read it. Behind it the living gathered and remembered the word shelter. Pirian gathered Pirith's heat into his chest and returned it as purpose instead of rage. Nerita cooled the lava into stone and the stone into stepping places for the frightened. Gravian eased plates together until tremors learned manners. Gravian eased plates together until tremors learned manners. Cthulhu, confronted by a quiet it could not corrupt, drifted toward its geometries below. Voltaris watched the clouds for bad ideas and kept his blade sheathed in thunder. Voltaris set lightning to work as a lantern and forbade it from breaking things unless asked. Tiamat descended into the cradle Gravian had carved. Rain wrote lullabies on obsidian until 5 heads slept. Voltaris stitched the surface shut with a net of soft lightning as Erithus blew the last bubbles into sleep. Cthulhu sank without a sound. Silence kept the secret. Nerita drew Jormungandr into the trench the cold had been saving for it. Ice closed like prayer. Nerita split a tsunami into harmless pages and turned them gently back to the deep. Pirian bowed to Pirith. The elder flame bowed back and slid into a volcano that remembered its name. Nerita laundered the ash from the air and folded the clouds neatly on the horizon. Skies cleared to a color that felt like forgiveness. Erithus combed the wind of sirens out of the streets and left music in its place. We learned the arithmetic of small. 1 hand to lift, 1 word to steady, 1 light to guide. We built again, not taller, but wiser, and left spaces in our cities shaped like gratitude. Far above, satellites blinked awake and began sending maps with new edges. Nerita listened for wrong tides and taught them to turn back before they were mistakes. Erithus wrote long letters to the sky and signed them with sunrise. Erithus braided jet streams into ropes strong enough to pull storms apart. The Guardian stood where horizon becomes myth and let us practice not being afraid. Nerita drew Jormungandr into the trench the cold had been saving for it. Ice closed like prayer. From time to time the deeps muttered. The deeps are allowed to mutter. Cthulhu pressed. Sanity thinned but did not break. The kraken unmade its storm and went down where pressure wears crowns. Children pointed at silhouettes 100 kilometers tall and did not scream. Engineers took notes, poets translated. Gravian leaned on the faults like a patient friend. Nerita cradled fleets that had lost their courage and returned them to stories they could finish. Nerita kissed the storm's cheek and sent it to bed. Engineers took notes, poets translated. Voltaris turned tantrums into lanterns. Pirian looked to the horizon where danger lives and nodded to Gravian, whose answer was gravity. When they did, Pirian warmed the nights without scalding the dawn. Far below, old creatures crawled from hiding and found the world still had room for them. Erithus wrote long letters to the sky and signed them with sunrise. Erithus measured the lull between storms and made it longer. Gravian listened to fault lines the way healers listen to ribs. And so before the flood remembered its duty, the world learned to stand between giants and still be small without being broken. Humanity found new hands, smaller, yes, but capable of building gratitude. The first laughter after catastrophe sounded like a prophecy keeping its appointment. The sky brightened gently as if not to wake anyone. The seas exhaled, shorelines met themselves again and apologized. This is how we lived. Under shadows 500 kilometers long, beside guardians 100 kilometers tall, and inside a courage exactly the size of a human heart.